The Stolen Inheritance. I found my grandmother's priceless emerald necklace being sold at auction for $2 million. But my grandmother died poor, with nothing to her name. The family selling it? They were our trusted lawyers for 3 generations. This is the story of how one photograph from 1924 exposed a century-old theft that destroyed my family, and how I took back what was always ours. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 32 years old, and until 2 years ago, I thought my family had always been ordinary, middle class, nothing special. My grandmother, Margaret Carter, died in 2022 at the age of 98. She lived her entire adult life in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, working as a seamstress until she was 75 years old. When she died, she left me almost nothing. No money, no property, no jewelry. Just 3 boxes of old photographs, letters, and documents. "This is your inheritance, Emily," the lawyer said when he handed me the boxes. "Your grandmother wanted you to have these memories." Memories. That's all we had. I remember asking my grandmother once, when I was a teenager, "Grandma, why don't we have any family heirlooms? No jewelry? No antiques?" She looked at me with the saddest eyes I'd ever seen and said, "We had everything once, sweetheart. Everything. But our family was betrayed by the people we trusted most. They took it all." "Who? Who betrayed you?" "The lawyers, darling. Always be careful with lawyers." I didn't understand then. I thought she was just bitter, maybe confused from age. But she wasn't. After her funeral, I spent weeks going through those boxes. Hundreds of old photographs, my great-grandparents, my grandmother as a young woman, relatives I'd never met. And then I found it. A black and white photograph from 1924. My grandmother, Margaret, at age 22, standing in what looked like a mansion. She was wearing an elegant evening gown, and around her neck, an absolutely stunning emerald necklace. 3 large emeralds, each the size of a quarter, surrounded by diamonds, on a platinum chain. Even in the faded photograph, you could see how magnificent it was. On the back of the photo, written in my grandmother's handwriting, "My 22nd birthday, the Riverside Estate, wearing mother's emerald necklace, our family treasure since 1880. I stared at that photo for an hour. The Riverside Estate? I'd never heard of it. Mother's emerald necklace? My grandmother died with nothing. What happened? I started digging through the other documents, birth certificates, marriage licenses, old newspaper clippings. And then I found a newspaper article from 1926. Prominent New York family loses fortune in stock market crash. The article was about the Carter family, my family. My great-grandfather, William Carter, had been a wealthy real estate developer in Manhattan in the 1920s. He owned properties all over the city, but in 1926, he lost everything in bad investments. The article said he had to sell the Riverside Estate to pay his debts. The family went from millionaires to broke in less than a year. My grandmother never told me any of this. She never talked about being rich. She just said we were ordinary people. But that necklace, what happened to the necklace? I became obsessed. I spent every night researching my family history, census records, property deeds, court documents. My great-grandfather William died in 1945. My great-grandmother Eleanor died in 1950. They both died poor, living in a small apartment in Queens. But somewhere in those boxes, there had to be answers. 14 months after my grandmother's death, I was scrolling through Instagram during my lunch break at work. I follow several auction house accounts, Christie's, Sotheby's, because I love looking at beautiful antiques and jewelry, even though I could never afford them. That day, Christie's posted about their upcoming Magnificent Jewels auction in New York. The featured item, a platinum and emerald necklace from the 1880s. My heart stopped. I clicked on the photo, 3 large emeralds, surrounded by diamonds, platinum chain. It was the necklace, the exact same one from my grandmother's photograph. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking so hard, I almost dropped my phone. The caption read, "Lot 47, Victorian-era emerald and diamond necklace, circa 1880. Provenance, Harrison Family Collection. Estimated value, $1.8 to $2.2 million. Harrison Family Collection. Who the hell were the Harrisons? I immediately called Christie's. "Hi, I have a question about Lot 47 in your Magnificent Jewels auction. Can you tell me more about the provenance?" The woman on the phone was polite but vague. "The necklace has been in the Harrison family's private collection since 1925. It was originally commissioned by a New York family in the 1880s. Beyond that, I can't provide additional details without authorization from the consignor." "Who is the consignor?" "I'm sorry, that information is confidential." I hung up and immediately searched for Harrison Family, New York, 1925. What I found made my blood run cold. James Harrison, attorney at law, partner at Harrison and Associates, established 1890. His client list in the 1920s included some of the wealthiest families in New York, including the Carter family, my family. I found an old photograph from 1923, a society page from the New York Times. My great-grandfather William Carter at a charity gala, shaking hands with James Harrison. The caption, Mr. William Carter, with his trusted legal advisor, Mr. James Harrison. Trusted legal advisor. I pulled out my grandmother's photograph again. The necklace, 1924. The Christie's auction listing said the Harrisons acquired the necklace in 1925. 1 year later, I spent the next 3 weeks doing nothing but research. I barely slept. I called in sick to work. I became obsessed. I found court records from 1926. When my great-grandfather lost his fortune, James Harrison represented him in bankruptcy proceedings. According to the documents, William Carter had to liquidate all assets to pay creditors. The Riverside estate was sold. All jewelry, artwork, and valuables were auctioned to settle debts. But there was no record of an emerald necklace being auctioned. I found letters in my grandmother's boxes. Letters between my great-grandmother, Eleanor, and James Harrison from 1927. Eleanor was begging Harrison to help them. They had nothing. They were living in a tenement. Their children were hungry. Harrison's response, typed on official letterhead, Dear Mrs. Carter, I regret to inform you that all assets have been liquidated as per the bankruptcy settlement. There are no remaining funds. I did everything within my power to protect your family's interests. Sincerely, James Harrison, Esquire. Everything within his power. Except he stole the necklace. I needed proof. Solid, undeniable proof. I hired a private investigator named Rachel Kim. She specialized in estate fraud cases. Emily, she said when we first met, what you're describing is called executor theft. It happens more often than people think. A lawyer or executor steals assets during estate settlements. By the time anyone notices, it's too late. Can we prove it after 100 years? If the evidence exists, yes. But it won't be easy. Rachel got to work. First, she subpoenaed records from Christie's auction house. They fought it. But eventually, a judge ordered them to disclose the full provenance documentation. The documents showed that James Harrison purchased the emerald necklace in 1925 for $500. $500. For a necklace worth, even in 1925, at least $50,000. Rachel found the receipt, signed by James Harrison. But there was no seller's signature, no record of who sold it to him. Emily, this is fraud. He didn't purchase this. He just took it and created a fake receipt to cover his tracks. Next, Rachel found something even more damning. In the bankruptcy proceedings documents, there was an asset inventory list dated March 1926. It listed every valuable item the Carter family owned. Item number 47. Emerald and diamond necklace, Victorian era, family heirloom. Estimated value, $50,000. The necklace was listed in the bankruptcy inventory. But then, in the final settlement document dated June 1926, that line item was crossed out. Handwritten note in the margin. Item sold privately before auction. Proceeds, $500. J.H. James Harrison. He sold it to himself, Rachel said, her voice shaking with anger. He literally crossed it off the list, claimed it was sold privately, paid himself $500 from the estate's funds, and kept the necklace. And my family never knew? Your great-grandfather probably signed 100 documents during the bankruptcy. He was desperate, overwhelmed, trusting his lawyer. He wouldn't have noticed one line item. What about my great-grandmother? She must have noticed the necklace was missing. Look at the dates. The bankruptcy was finalized in June 1926. By then, they'd already been evicted from their home. They were living in a shelter. Your great-grandmother was probably more worried about feeding her children than tracking down a necklace. Rachel pulled out another document. But here's the kicker. In 1928, Eleanor Carter, your great-grandmother, did write to James Harrison asking about the necklace. She remembered it wasn't included in the auction items. The letter was in my grandmother's boxes. I'd seen it, but hadn't understood its significance. Eleanor's handwriting, shaky and desperate. Mr. Harrison, I'm writing regarding my mother's emerald necklace. I cannot find any record of it being sold in the estate auction. It was a family heirloom of great sentimental value. Can you please provide information about its whereabouts? Harrison's response, Dear Mrs. Carter, according to my records, all jewelry items were sold to various buyers during the liquidation process. I do not have information about specific purchasers. I'm sorry I cannot be of more help. Sincerely, J.H. He lied. He lied straight to her face while wearing her stolen necklace at society parties. Rachel found photographs from the 1930s and 1940s. James Harrison's wife, Catherine, wearing the emerald necklace at charity galas, opera performances, museum fundraisers. My family's stolen heirloom, displayed openly by the thief's wife. And my great-grandmother was across town, working in a factory, struggling to feed her children. I wanted to go to the police, file criminal charges. But Rachel explained, "Emily, this happened 100 years ago. Everyone involved is dead. You can't prosecute a dead man." So they just get away with it? No. We file a civil suit for recovery of stolen property. The current Harrison family, James Harrison's descendants, are in possession of stolen goods. The statute of limitations doesn't apply to stolen property. If you can prove it was stolen, you can demand its return. In September 2023, I filed a lawsuit against the Harrison Family Trust and Christie's auction house. The defendants, Victoria Harrison, James Harrison's great-granddaughter, and Harrison Estate Holdings. My claim: the emerald necklace was fraudulently taken from the Carter estate in 1926 and rightfully belongs to the Carter family heirs. The media went crazy. Woman sues over stolen $2 million necklace, claims family lawyer stole it 100 years ago. Suddenly, I was on the news. CNN, Fox, MSNBC. Everyone wanted the story. The Harrison family released a statement through their lawyers. These accusations are baseless and defamatory. James Harrison was a respected attorney who served his clients with integrity. The necklace was legally acquired in 1925. Ms. Carter's claims are nothing more than an attempt to profit from a legitimate sale nearly a century ago. But I had the evidence, the documents, the photographs, the crossed-out inventory line. The court case took 8 months. The Harrison family hired a team of expensive lawyers, just like their great-grandfather did. They argued too much time had passed. The statute of limitations applied. I couldn't prove ownership. The necklace had been in their family for generations, and they purchased it in good faith. But my legal team countered, stolen property has no statute of limitations. The bankruptcy inventory clearly showed the necklace belonged to the Carter estate. The $500 purchase was a fraudulent transaction. James Harrison was in a position of trust and violated that trust. The breakthrough came when Rachel found something incredible: a diary. James Harrison's personal diary from 1925, discovered in an old trunk by one of his descendants during the lawsuit discovery process. The entry from November 14th, 1925, handled the Carter Emerald situation today. William is too broken to notice. Eleanor will never prove anything. The necklace will set Catherine and me up nicely. They'll never suspect their own lawyer. He wrote it down. The arrogant bastard wrote down his crime. The trial took place in Manhattan Supreme Court in May 2024. I sat in that courtroom every single day. My mother came with me. We held hands as we listened to lawyers argue over our family's stolen heritage. The Harrison family's lawyers tried everything. They claimed the diary was fake. Forensic analysis proved it was authentic. They claimed James Harrison meant something different. The judge read the entry aloud and said, "This is a clear admission of theft." They tried to argue that even if it was stolen, the current Harrison family bought it, in good faith, from their ancestor. My lawyer stood up and delivered the most powerful argument I'd ever heard. "Your Honor, the defense wants you to believe that because the thieves were smart enough to keep the stolen property in their family for 4 generations, they now have a right to keep it. That's not how the law works. Stolen property remains stolen property, regardless of how much time passes. The Carter family never voluntarily gave up this necklace. It was taken from them through fraud by a man they trusted. And now, a century later, they're asking for justice." The courtroom was silent. Judge Patricia Morrison looked at me, then at Victoria Harrison, then at the emerald necklace displayed in a glass case as evidence. "I'm going to take a brief recess to review the evidence one more time," she said. Those 30 minutes felt like 30 years. When the judge returned, she had a stack of documents in front of her. "I've reviewed all evidence presented in this case." The diary entry from James Harrison dated November 14th, 1925. The bankruptcy inventory showing the emerald necklace as estate property. The fraudulent $500 receipt. The letters from Eleanor Carter questioning the necklace's whereabouts. And Mr. Harrison's deceptive response. She paused. The evidence is overwhelming. James Harrison, while serving as legal counsel to the Carter family during their financial crisis, committed fraud and theft. He removed a valuable asset from the bankruptcy estate, created a false paper trail, and kept the property for himself. The current Harrison family argues they are innocent purchasers, but you cannot be an innocent purchaser of property that was never legally for sale. This necklace was stolen. It has remained stolen for 99 years. I squeezed my mother's hand so hard I thought I'd break her fingers. Therefore, I rule in favor of the plaintiff, Emily Carter. The emerald necklace is the rightful property of the Carter family heirs. The Harrison family must return the necklace to Ms. Carter within 30 days. Additionally, I am ordering the Harrison estate holdings to pay restitution to Ms. Carter in the amount of $1 million, representing estimated lost inheritance value, adjusted for inflation, that the Carter family would have had if the necklace had been properly included in the bankruptcy proceedings. The courtroom exploded. Victoria Harrison screamed, "This is insane! You can't punish us for something our great-grandfather did." The judge banged her gavel. "Ms. Harrison, your family has been in possession of stolen property for a century. You have benefited from that theft. The law does not protect thieves or their heirs. This court is adjourned." 30 days later, I received a call from my lawyer. "Emily, they're ready to hand over the necklace. Can you come to the office?" I drove to Manhattan with my mother. We barely spoke during the drive. We were both in shock. At the lawyer's office, Victoria Harrison was there with her legal team. She looked furious, bitter, defeated. A Christie's representative carefully placed a velvet box on the table. My lawyer opened it. There it was, the emerald necklace, even more beautiful in person than in any photograph. 3 massive emeralds, glowing green even under the office fluorescent lights, surrounded by diamonds that sparkled like stars. My mother started crying. "Mom, what's wrong?" "Emily," she whispered, "I saw this necklace once, when I was a little girl. Your grandmother showed me a photograph and told me, this belonged to us once. We were royalty once, and they stole it all." She reached out and gently touched the emeralds. She said, "Maybe one day, someone in our family will be strong enough to take it back." My mother looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "You did it, baby. You took it back." Victoria Harrison stood up abruptly. "Enjoy your stolen victory, Ms. Carter. You've destroyed my family's reputation." I looked her straight in the eyes. "Your great-grandfather destroyed my family 100 years ago. He left them homeless, penniless, and broken. My great-grandmother died poor, believing she'd failed her children. My grandmother worked until she was 75 years old just to survive. You want to talk about destroyed reputations? My family has been ashamed and humiliated for 4 generations because we were the family that lost everything. We didn't lose everything. It was stolen from us by your great-grandfather. And now, finally, we're taking back what was always ours." Victoria left without another word. I had the necklace appraised by 3 independent jewelers. Current value, $2.4 million. Christie's had underestimated. I could have sold it, paid off my student loans, bought a house, lived comfortably. But I didn't. I donated it to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, with one condition: the display plaque would tell the true story. Today, if you visit the Met's jewelry collection, you'll see this: Victorian emerald and diamond necklace, circa 1880, originally owned by the Carter family of New York. Commissioned in 1880 by Eleanor Margaret Carter, née Whitmore. This necklace was fraudulently taken from the Carter estate in 1926 by their attorney, James Harrison, during bankruptcy proceedings. The necklace remained in the Harrison family for 99 years until 2024, when Emily Carter, great-great-granddaughter of the original owners, successfully sued for its return. This piece represents not only exceptional Victorian craftsmanship, but also a century-long fight for justice and the recovery of stolen family heritage. Donated by Emily Carter in memory of her grandmother, Margaret Carter, 1902 to 2022, who never forgot what was taken from her family. The museum gets thousands of visitors every week. People from all over the world read that plaque and learn our story. The Harrison family tried to have the plaque changed. The museum refused. "This is history," the curator told them. "And history isn't always pretty." As for the $1 million restitution the court ordered, I put half in a trust for my future children. The other half I used to establish the Carter Family Justice Fund, a nonprofit that helps families fight estate fraud and theft. Because after my story went viral, hundreds of people contacted me with similar stories. Lawyers who stole from estates, family members who forged wills, trusted advisors who betrayed the people they were supposed to protect. Estate theft is more common than anyone wants to admit, and the victims are almost always the most vulnerable: elderly people, grieving families, people in financial crisis. Now we help them fight back. Last week, I visited my grandmother's grave. I brought a photograph of the necklace in its museum display case. I placed it on her headstone. "I found it, Grandma. I found the necklace, and I proved you were right. We were betrayed, but I fixed it. I took back our family's honor." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves on the trees, and I swear I felt her there with me, proud. This story taught me something important. Injustice doesn't have an expiration date. Everyone told me to give up. It's been too long. Everyone involved is dead. You'll never prove it. Let it go. But I didn't. Because my grandmother spent 96 years knowing she'd been robbed, and nobody believed her. Because my great-grandmother died thinking she'd failed her family. Because 4 generations of Carter women lived in poverty while the Harrison family wore our stolen jewelry to parties. And because if I hadn't fought, that necklace would have sold at auction for $2 million, and the Harrison family would have profited one more time from their great-grandfather's crime. Sometimes the system protects the powerful, the wealthy, the ones with expensive lawyers. But sometimes, not always, but sometimes, if you have the evidence, the determination, and the courage to stand up, the truth wins. I get messages every day now, people who found old photographs of family heirlooms that disappeared, people who suspect their grandparents' estates were mishandled, people who were told to move on from injustices committed decades ago. And I tell them all the same thing. If you know the truth, fight for it, even if it takes years, even if everyone tells you to quit, even if it seems impossible. Because justice delayed is not justice denied. It's justice waiting for someone brave enough to demand it. The last thing I'll tell you, 6 months after the trial ended, I received a letter in the mail. No return address. Postmarked from somewhere in Connecticut. Inside was a single handwritten note. Ms. Carter, I'm writing anonymously because I'm ashamed. I'm a distant Harrison family relative. I didn't testify during your trial because I was afraid of being cut off from the family. But you deserve to know. There are more items. James Harrison didn't just steal your necklace. He stole from at least 4 other families during the 1920s and 1930s. Paintings, jewelry, stocks, property deeds. I found a locked trunk in my late uncle's attic 6 months ago. Inside were documents, receipts, letters, lists, detailing everything he took. I'm enclosing copies. I can't come forward publicly, but maybe you can do something with this information. You gave me the courage to at least send you this. Thank you for fighting, a friend. The envelope contained 47 pages of documents, proof that James Harrison defrauded at least 6 families. The Carter emerald necklace was just the beginning. I'm working with Rachel Kim now to contact the descendants of those families. Some of the stolen items are gone forever, but some, like a Monet painting currently hanging in a private collection in Boston, can still be recovered. This fight isn't over. It's only just begun. The emerald necklace sits in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where millions of people can see it. It's finally where it belongs. And every time someone reads that plaque and learns what happened to my family, James Harrison's name is remembered not as a respected attorney, but as a thief. That's the real victory. If this story touched you, please share it. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because every Monday, I bring you stories of justice, betrayal, and families fighting for what's rightfully theirs. Remember, it's never too late to fight for the truth.